Chosen one, listen closely. Tonight is not a normal night. Something ancient, precise, and impossibly powerful is aligning above you, an opening in the fabric of reality itself. The 1212 portal is not approaching. It is locking in. And when it hits, it will search for the ones who were marked long before they understood what their life truly was. That includes you. There is movement in the invisible layers around you, forces scanning, rearranging, whispering your identifiers through the corridors of the unseen. You don't feel anxious by accident. You don't feel restless for no reason. That pressure in the air, that's the world tightening around its chosen vessels, trying to confirm who is awake enough to receive the 7 miracles speeding toward them. This is not a reading. This is not inspiration. This is a classified briefing about the shift that recognizes your signature. Chosen one, like this video, subscribe, and comment. I am ready for a powerful surprise. 1. The signal break. The moment the portal locks onto you. When the portal activates, the first thing it reaches for is not your thoughts, but your frequency. And the moment that frequency rises into range, your body becomes the antenna. This is why your heartbeat feels slightly off tonight. Not painful, not alarming, but noticeably out of rhythm, like it's trying to sync with a pulse that isn't coming from your own chest. What you're feeling is a coded recognition signal, a soft impact in the lining of your awareness. The portal doesn't search randomly. It identifies, it verifies, and your heartbeat shifts because it's picking up a message that was never meant for the general population, only for the marked. As the signal deepens, the world around you starts responding. Lights flicker, not dramatically, but intentionally. A lamp buzzes. A hallway light dims for half a second. Screens seem slower to respond. These are not electrical coincidences. It's the unseen running diagnostics on you. The portal sends scouts of energy that pass through the environment, brushing against anything that vibrates, anything that emits, anything that glows. Light bends easily under influence, which is why it's the first thing to react when the chosen one steps into range. It's checking your signature, checking your readiness, checking your alignment. And then, without warning, a memory rises. Something small, something from childhood or your early life, an image, a thought, a moment you never questioned. But tonight, suddenly, it feels heavier, more symbolic, almost like it was placed in your timeline, intentionally. It sits in your mind, with new gravity. You don't know why. You don't know what triggered it. But the memory doesn't belong to random nostalgia. It belongs to the moment the portal touches your past to verify your path. The memory activates because something encoded inside it was waiting for the right frequency to unlock. This shift spreads through your mind quickly. Even your own name feels different. When you think it, when you say it internally, it rings louder, like something invisible answers back. Your name feels weighted, expanded, as if you're hearing not just the label given to you at birth, but the deeper identity tied to your purpose. Your name echoes differently because the world around you is repeating it through a channel you can't hear. The portal doesn't just read who you are, it calls you forward. It repeats your name through a structure of energy older than history itself. As this happens, the day begins revealing its clues. A small problem, something annoying, inconvenient, or oddly timed, suddenly stands out in your memory as if it wasn't random at all. Maybe your phone glitched. Maybe a plan fell apart. Maybe someone delayed you, irritated you, or blocked you from doing something simple. At the time, it felt like an ordinary disruption. But now, Looking back through the lens of this moment, you sense something else. Interference. That problem was not accidental. It was resistance. Not from a person, not from bad luck, but from a subtle disruption, sent by forces that didn't want the portal to lock onto you so quickly. Whenever a chosen one's frequency rises too fast, old structures try to slow it, confuse it, or distract it. That small problem in your day was an attempt to interrupt the alignment process. It didn't succeed, but you felt it. The portal locks onto you by reading your internal landscape, and when it does, the environment begins behaving in ways you can no longer dismiss. You notice patterns. You notice timing. You notice the strange sensitivity in the air. You feel watched, not in a threatening way, but in a measured, technical way, like something is assessing your readiness with precision. Your heartbeat continues adjusting, syncing with that unseen pulse. You feel a faint tug in your awareness, like something is drawing your attention upward, not physically, but energetically. The world feels slightly tilted, as if a larger system you cannot see is shifting into place around you. This is the moment your signature becomes visible in the higher layers, the moment the portal marks you as one of the receivers. The flicker of the lights becomes a language. The memory becomes a key. Your name becomes a command. Your heartbeat becomes a signal tower. And the interference you faced earlier becomes clearer now. It wasn't trying to ruin your day. It was trying to keep you from arriving at this exact moment with your awareness open. But you arrived, and the portal knows. The alignment strengthens. The signal sharpens. You feel the sense of being pulled into a larger structure. Something organized, something intentional, something that has been waiting for the right moment to reveal its presence around you. Tonight is that moment. And this is only the first sign. 2. The archivists return. Keepers of timelines you were never supposed to see. Chosen one. When the archivists return, they do not arrive with footsteps, voices, or any sign the ordinary world could detect. Their presence is subtle, almost gentle, but it carries an ancient weight that presses against your awareness, like the shift in air before a storm. At exactly 12:12 a.m., when the veil thins and the night pauses for a single breath, something unseen brushes against the edge of your thoughts. It is not a whisper and not a feeling. It is a transfer, a download, a quiet, deliberate insertion of information you once knew but could not hold on to. It enters your mind the way a memory returns in a dream, without permission, without context, without sound. Just a soft pressure behind your eyes, a sudden flash of clarity, a jolt of recognition that you cannot explain. It feels almost like remembering a story you never lived, yet somehow always carried within you. You might blink, look around the room, feel your pulse quicken, not because something is wrong, but because something ancient is touching you. The archivists do not speak. They do not announce their arrival. They slip into your consciousness with the practiced precision of beings who have been doing this since long before humans learned how to name time. Their presence feels like someone opening a sealed door in the back of your mind and letting the light fall across forgotten shelves. They do not show you everything. They reveal only what has become necessary. That is why, in the minutes after, a childhood fear rises within you as if pulled upward by a hidden thread. A fear you never understood. A fear that clung to you without logic. Too big, too vivid, too specific for a young mind to create on its own. You remember lying awake at night as a child, heart pounding, certain that something was watching from the corner you refused to look at. Maybe it was a recurring nightmare, or a strange shape you saw once and never forgot, or a feeling in your stomach that made no sense but would not leave. Tonight, that fear stops being a mystery. It shifts in your mind, rearranging itself like a familiar object seen under new light. It stops feeling childish and starts feeling intentional. Not a random fear, but a signal. A warning placed inside you before you were old enough to question anything. The archivists planted it, not to frighten you, but to protect you. Children trust their instincts more purely than adults, so they embedded the warning in your imagination, knowing it would stay untouched and unaltered until the moment you are ready to decode it. You may feel your throat tighten or your breath catch as the realization lands. That fear wasn't meant to weaken you. It was meant to keep you alive long before you knew danger existed. Not physical danger, temporal danger, the kind that slips between timelines and threads itself through moments you weren't prepared to see. Now the fear surfaces, so you can finally understand its purpose. It was your earliest proof that something was watching over your life long before you knew the word for destiny. Soon after, your dreams begin shifting, not gradually, suddenly. They stop resembling familiar faces and moments. They become vast, unsettling, but strangely beautiful. You begin walking through places that defy physical logic, spiraled staircases that loop back into themselves, glass cities shimmering in colors you have no name for, doorways that open into endless hallways stretching like veins through a living world. You wander down corridors that feel impossibly old, yet eerily personal, as if they were designed by an architect who studied your mind from the inside. These are not dreams in the human sense. They are maps. Each hallway corresponds to another version of your life. Paths you could have lived, choices you almost made, futures that flickered for a second before disappearing. You see glimpses, a different job, a different home, a version of you who stayed, another who left, another who never arrived at certain crossroads at all. These possibilities weave together like strands of a massive design the archivists have watched over for longer than you can comprehend. They are showing you that your life was never linear. It branched, split, reconnected, diverged again. And through every split, they have been tracking you, adjusting timelines around you like strategists reshaping a battlefield. As these dream maps unfold, you begin to sense something else, a strange weight pressing from the past, as though history itself has turned its attention toward you. Not the dates you learned in school, not the stories written in books. History in the primal sense, the collective memory of the world, the silence between wars, the breath after civilizations rise and before they crumble. The archivists are woven into that silence, and as they watch you now, the past watches with them. You feel it like a presence behind your shoulder, not threatening, but aware. You may notice the sensation of being seen by something old, something vast, something that remembers patterns human eyes rarely notice. It observes you with recognition, like it has been waiting for this moment long enough to lose count of the centuries. Then comes the final shift, the moment that tears open the thin curtain between what you believed and what is true. A memory you once dismissed as imagination suddenly returns in full clarity. Maybe you remembered it as a strange dream you had as a child. Maybe you thought it was a thought experiment you made up in your teens. Or perhaps it was a quiet moment, standing alone somewhere, feeling watched in a way that felt protective instead of threatening. You pushed it aside, you laughed at it, you forgot it. But as the archivist's touch settles into your mind, that memory sharpens like a photograph finally coming into focus. You begin to see the moment again, but differently. It doesn't feel imagined. It doesn't feel symbolic. It feels like communication, precise, intentional, a message they delivered years ago when you were too young or too distracted to understand its meaning. You feel your stomach drop as you recognize the truth. That moment wasn't your mind playing tricks on you. It was real, a transmission, a message waiting for the moment your awareness grew strong enough to hear it. They were preparing you for a future they already saw, a crossing point they knew would arrive exactly when it did. The memory unfolds in detail you never noticed before. The angle of light, the sound in the background, the emotion you felt without understanding why. It all clicks into place with a force that nearly steals your breath. And chosen one, it becomes clear that the archivists have never been absent. They were simply waiting for you to be ready to perceive them. 3. The mirror vectors, the operations running through your reflections. Chosen one. The mirrors have been quiet for a long time, pretending to be nothing more than glass and silver, pretending to be passive observers of your life. But they were never passive. They were never neutral. Mirrors have always been gateways, thin sheets between worlds, recording versions of you that exist beside, behind, and beyond the one you see. Tonight, the veil between those versions loosens just enough for you to catch something no one ever thinks to notice. Your reflection hesitates. It is subtle, a fraction of a second, the kind of moment your mind would normally smooth over without question. But this time, the timing is too sharp, too deliberate. Your face in the mirror reacts as if it senses something you cannot yet detect. Its eyes flicker a little too slowly. Its posture shifts a heartbeat behind yours. Its expression lingers even after your own has moved on. That hesitation is not a glitch of perception. It is communication. Your reflection evaluates the room behind you, the air around you, and something you haven't turned to face. It knows before you do. Your mirror self is responding to movement in a layer of reality that does not register through human sight. A single moment of self-doubt, one flicker of insecurity, one silent question about your worth or your path, creates a disturbance that echoes across that boundary. Mirrors do not simply reflect light. They reflect state. They reflect the structure of your energy, your thoughts, your internal weather. When doubt sharpens inside you, even for a second, it weakens the boundary around your mind like a crack spreading in glass. Hidden forces watch for that crack. They lean into it. They taste the emotional frequency you release and read it the way strategists study blueprints. Your inner uncertainty becomes a leak, a data stream, giving them access to knowledge about your emotional condition that they should never have been allowed to see. It is not your weakness they absorb. It is your location, your vibration, your current emotional temperature. Doubt has always been one of the most potent forms of exposure, not because it makes you fragile, but because it briefly reveals what you hide so well. And tonight, the mirror vectors use that leak to assess your readiness, your balance, your level of alertness. The moment you question yourself, they observe, they analyze, they send ripples through the reflection to test how much of your inner world you're consciously guarding. Then, as you stare into the mirror, a sudden cold shiver cuts through your body. It comes without wind, without movement, without logic. A precise, targeted chill. Not the kind that spreads across your skin, but a jolt that strikes the spine first. Like a warning, fired from another version of you. Your mirror self has noticed something. A threat, an anomaly moving behind the glass, or just outside the range of physical dimensions. Your reflection freezes, not in fear, but in recognition. It sees what you cannot. It registers the intrusion before the human mind can form the idea. This chill isn't superstition. It is the arrival of information. Your mirror self pushes a signal back toward you, forcing your nerves to react, urging your awareness to sharpen. The reflection knows the difference between ordinary disturbances and targeted ones. It knows when something is approaching, something that shifts pressure in the unseen, something that makes the mirror world ripple. That chill is your first clue that the boundary between you and the threat has thinned. In a quiet corner of your home, there is an old mirror, one you barely use, one that has watched more years than you have counted, one that has absorbed reflections of you that even you no longer remember. Tonight, around midnight, that mirror wakes. You may not witness the exact moment it activates, but you will feel it. The air near it grows stale, heavy, charged. Its surface seems brighter and darker at the same time, holding a depth that wasn't there the day before. The mirror becomes alert, as though inhaling. It doesn't glow or shake or call out, it simply becomes awake. You sense its awareness, like a pair of eyes opening in a dark room. You may feel its attention, the way it shifts subtly towards you despite never moving. Mirrors that have been dormant for years begin to hum at a frequency just below human hearing. They have been waiting for the exact alignment of energy, time, and silence to activate, and tonight, that alignment arrives. They are now receivers. They are now transmitters. They are now tracking changes in the world. The kind of changes that do not leave footprints, but leave distortions in the reflection. And then, almost as if following a silent command, new marks appear on its surface. Scratches, smudges, patterns that were not there hours ago. These are not random imperfections, not dust, not aging glass. They form symbols, abrupt, sharp, fractured shapes that feel like coded warnings. They appear the moment the portal opens, drawn not by physical touch, but by energetic interference. They materialize as if someone dragged a finger across the other side of the mirror, leaving a message you can see but cannot fully translate. These marks may be faint, tiny enough that someone else would ignore them, but to you, they stand out like scars. Some lines intersect, forming angles that point toward corners or doorways. Some smudges form curves that resemble paths or arcs. Together, they create a language of distortion, warnings from the mirror world about shifts happening behind your reality. The smudges hold motion even when still. If you stare long enough, the shapes seem to pulse or breathe, as though the mirror is trying to push information through a material that is too solid to let the message pass cleanly. The codes are not meant to be read with the eyes. They are meant to be felt, sensed, absorbed the way your skin senses temperature or your intuition senses danger. The mirror vectors are not merely reflections, they are operations, active, intentional systems built to monitor changes in your energy, your environment, and the layers of reality interacting with you. When they respond, it is not random, it is not symbolic, it is not imagination. They respond because something or someone is moving in ways that disturb the field around your life. They respond because the glass boundary is being tested. They respond because your reflection is no longer just a reflection. It is a sentinel, watching from the other side of the veil. 4. The seraphic interceptors, the forces protecting you without asking, chosen one. The ones who guard you move in silence. They do not flash wings or glow or announce themselves with holy thunder. Their work is subtle, hidden behind the ordinary rhythm of your life, disguised as coincidence, luck, timing, or instinct. These are the seraphic interceptors, beings who intervene without waiting for permission, who step between you and disaster before you even sense the danger approaching. Their protection is not dramatic. It is precise, calculated, surgical. They intercept threats the moment those threats begin shaping themselves around your path, long before you could see them forming. You have lived your whole life wrapped in their invisible net, and because of them, near misses have become so common that you hardly notice anymore. A car that almost hit you but braked at the last second. A message you didn't send that saved you from the wrong entanglement. A schedule shift that moved you out of harm's way without you knowing harm existed. The meeting you missed, the object you dropped, the gut feeling that pulled you out of a situation you later realized wasn't safe. These moments were not random. They were not accidents. They were interceptions, microsecond interventions executed with perfect precision. They have saved you more times than you could count, turning disasters into minor inconveniences, turning catastrophes into close calls, turning danger into nothing more than a strange story you brush off afterward. You survived because someone else acted before you even knew you needed saving. Sometimes the interceptors don't wait for danger to take shape. They push you themselves. You know that feeling. The sudden urge to change direction for no logical reason. You're about to step one way, but a strange pull moves you the other. You decide at the last moment to walk a different street, take a different route, open a different door. It feels like instinct, like intuition, kicking in at the perfect time. But it is not merely intuition, it is steering. Their influence arrives as a sharp tug in your chest, or a strange tightness in the air around you, or a whisper-thin sensation that makes your feet hesitate. You obey it before thinking, shifting course without understanding why. That shift is not random. It's them nudging you off a collision path. The danger might be a person, a location, a situation, or a ripple in energy that would have struck you in ways you weren't prepared to handle. They read your environment like a battlefield, studying angles, trajectories, and sequences you cannot see. When they feel the threat rise, they push you, not roughly, not violently, but with firm, invisible hands that know exactly where you need to move. And when your voice cracks with frustration, when you mutter something out loud in a moment of overwhelm, pressure, anger, or exhaustion, they respond instantly. To you, it may feel like venting, like speaking into empty air, but to them, it sounds like a distress call. The interceptors do not decode your words literally. They read the emotional frequency beneath them. When your tone carries that trembling edge, that subtle break, that vibration of, "I can't handle this alone," they mobilize. Their response is immediate, as though you've pressed a silent alarm. The air shifts, circumstances rearrange, small obstacles clear out of your way, delays smooth over, people show up unexpectedly. Something softens in the world around you, as if an unseen team has taken command of the unfolding situation, determined to relieve the pressure before it crushes you. They are not sentimental, chosen one. They are strategic. Your emotional state is data to them, and when it destabilizes, they treat it like a breach in the defense system. Their goal is to reinforce you, stabilize you, keep you operational. Not because they worship you, but because protecting you is part of the architecture they were created to uphold. Their interventions do not always look supernatural. Sometimes they look like small, human kindnesses, arriving exactly when you need them. A stranger holds a door longer than necessary. Someone gives you directions, compliments you, notices you're struggling, or offers help without being asked. You may dismiss these moments as ordinary acts of decency, but tonight they carry a different weight. Tonight, they are disguised maneuvers, interceptors influencing the actions of people around you to guide you, soften the environment, smooth the path beneath your feet. A barista who hands you the drink you needed before you even speak. A neighbor who appears at the exact second you need help. A driver who slows down just enough to let you cross safely. These are not coincidences. These are agents of protection working through human vessels. The interceptors rarely interfere directly. Instead, they shift the behaviors of the people around you, nudging them like chess pieces, aligning them into positions that support your movement. The kindness feels natural, spontaneous, human. But behind it is orchestration. Behind it is strategy. Behind it is intention. And then there is the ringing, that sharp, sudden, high-pitched sound in your ear, the one that appears out of nowhere, stops conversation, freezes your thoughts for a moment. You may have brushed it off as ear pressure, or fatigue, or a medical quirk. But the timing is always too precise. It comes the moment the atmosphere changes, the moment something shifts in the unseen, the moment energy gathers or danger rises. That ringing is not random. It is an alarm signal. To the interceptors, it is a flare, an activation point. When the frequency hits your ear, it is because they have detected a threat, an interference, or a spike in your emotional or energetic field. They send the ringing through you intentionally, a sound sharp enough to break your focus and force your awareness to snap to attention. It is both a warning and a calibration. The sound clears your field, resets your perception, and alerts you to something your conscious mind has not yet registered. It may last a few seconds or stretch longer, but it always arrives with purpose. It signals that something has entered your orbit, something you need to notice, or avoid, or prepare for. The ringing carries layers of meaning that your conscious mind cannot decode, but your body understands it instinctively. You straighten your posture. Your senses heighten. You breathe differently. Your intuition wakes up like a guard dog stirred from sleep. The interceptors communicate through frequency because it travels faster than thought. It cuts through emotion. It bypasses logic altogether. The ringing is their language, a coded alert woven into sound, designed to reach you even if you're distracted, tired, or overwhelmed. They have been doing this for years, chosen one, safeguarding you, shielding you, steering you away from threats you never saw forming, intercepting what would have harmed you, moving through the edges of your life like silent warriors in a battlefield you never knew you were standing in. 5. The shadow replicants, the ones who tried to predict your rise. Chosen one, the ones who tried to predict you were never human observers standing at the edges of your life. They were constructs, shadow replicants, designed to analyze your thoughts, mimic your emotional patterns, and learn your tendencies long before you understood you had tendencies worth studying. They moved like ordinary people, wore familiar faces, and blended into your life with unsettling ease. You rarely noticed them because the perfect copy never announces itself. It behaves just close enough to believable, yet just distant enough to keep you unsteady, confused, second-guessing your instincts without understanding why. The truth is that someone from your past has been mirroring your thoughts for years without you ever sensing the quiet theft. Not reading your mind, not invading your privacy, but studying the subtle architecture of how you think, how your attention drifts, how you react to pressure, what memories soften you, what fears sharpen you. They shadowed the pace of your inner world. They followed the rise and fall of your emotions. They timed their own behavior to match the rhythm of your mind, building a psychological blueprint designed to predict when you would fall, when you would rise, when you would choose, when you would hesitate. You thought this person simply got you, or understood you, or stayed strangely close, even when you drifted away. But what you felt was not understanding. It was replication. Someone walking one step behind the outline of your thoughts, quietly copying the parts of you they believed were the key to controlling your future. But today, especially today, you've begun to feel the glitch in them. A person suddenly acting off around you. Someone whose behavior no longer matches their familiar pattern. Someone who hesitates a little too long or reacts with an emotion that doesn't fit the moment. That is the sign. Their replication model failed. The copy they depended on, your shadow twin, the one built from old versions of you, the one trained to keep up, cannot match who you have become. It can't anticipate your next move because you're no longer obeying the patterns it memorized. Growth breaks predictions. Awakening destroys scripts. And the moment a copy cannot calculate your next step, it begins to unravel. You may not have realized how often this happened. You may have dismissed the disconnect as someone changing or acting strange or being weird today. But that shift, the tension, the awkwardness, the flicker of something unrecognizable in their eyes, is the moment your evolution outpaced their imitation. You stepped into a version of yourself the copy was never designed to simulate. And because of that, the real person and the replicated version they once deployed no longer align. This is why you and someone else sometimes remember the same moment differently. You recall the conversation one way. They recall it in a way that contradicts everything you remember feeling or saying. You remember a detail they insist never happened. They recall an event with precision you don't recognize at all. These memory fractures are not accidents. One of you encountered the copy instead of the real person. You spoke to an echo of them, an imitation crafted to behave predictably, to keep you in line with the timeline they built around you. The copy filtered your reactions, gathered your emotional responses, and delivered them back to its creators like data points. Meanwhile, the actual person remained unaware of your interaction. And when you later discussed that moment with them, something didn't fit. Their version lacked familiarity. Yours lacked recognition. This mismatch wasn't a flaw in memory. It was the residue of an encounter with something that should not exist. Tonight, the boundary between them weakens. Tonight, one copy glitches, pauses mid-sentence, freezes for a blink too long, repeats a word without meaning to, or says something that feels disconnected from the flow of the conversation. The glitch can appear as a mechanical stutter in their emotions or an unnatural blankness in their eyes. A silence too heavy, a smile too late, a reaction that lacks the warmth or nuance of the person you know. This malfunction isn't random. The 12-12 energy destabilizes anything artificial, anything built from imitation rather than origin. The copy can't hold its shape. When reality sharpens around you, it loses cohesion. You sense something slip, like a mask cracking in real time. The glitch may be small, barely noticeable, but your body feels it. A chill under your skin, a sudden tightening in your chest, a strange distance between your breathing and the air around you. You're not imagining it. It is the moment the copy's operating thread misfires. They cannot mimic what they cannot understand. And tonight, your complexity outstrips their programming. This is why a face in your dream wasn't imagination. It wasn't your mind randomly choosing a familiar figure. It was the copy testing you, testing whether you'd recognize them, whether your subconscious would question their presence, whether you could distinguish the original from the replica. Dreams are the testing ground they prefer, because you are unguarded there. Your defenses sleep, your logic dims, your intuition floats freely. They enter through the loose edges of your mind, like silhouettes passing through fog, taking the shape of someone you know, because that is the form you are most likely to trust. They watch how you respond in the dream, whether you step toward them or away, whether you greet them or hesitate, whether you recognize something off about their presence or accept it without question. If you treat them like the real person, the copy learns something. If you react with suspicion, the copy retreats. And if you look them directly in the face, fully aware that something does not belong, the copy weakens. Recognition is their enemy. Awareness disrupts their structure. You remember that dream because it wasn't a dream. It was contact. It was infiltration disguised as familiarity. And the expression you saw, the one that made no sense, the one that felt wrong, was the copy revealing itself more than it intended. The dream was not your imagination projecting a face into a wandering storyline. It was the copy approaching you without the camouflage of waking reality, hoping your subconscious would not notice the difference. But you did notice. Some part of you recognized the mismatch, the tone, the timing, the stillness, the way their gaze lingered too long, or their words carried no emotional weight. That recognition left a scar in the dream, a mark you can still feel even now. The shadow replicants have always tried to stay ahead of your rise by copying your past, predicting your present, and mapping out your future. But the moment they fail to mirror you, the entire structure begins to crumble. 6. The Oracle Flare. When your future sends you a warning. The Oracle Flare does not arrive softly. It does not whisper or gently tap at the edge of your awareness. It strikes like a pulse from another version of you, one who has already lived through a moment you have not yet reached, one who stands somewhere ahead of you on the path, sending signals backward through the layers of time. You feel it before you understand it. A sudden wave of fear hits you, not tied to anything happening around you, or a sadness washes over you as sharply as if you've lost something, even though nothing in your current world has changed. That moment, those emotions that appear from nowhere, are not your own. They belong to the version of you, living farther down the timeline, the one who just absorbed the impact of something meant to reach you. A warning delivered through sensation. Your body picks it up instantly, because your future self is bound to your present self like two hands tied by the same cord. When one hand burns, the other feels the heat. You may have tried to explain these sudden waves away in the past. Just a mood swing, just a bad moment, just stress. But this particular kind of fear, this specific flavor of sadness, has a strange weight to it. It feels like a memory you haven't lived yet. It feels foreign, as if the emotion belongs to a story you haven't entered, but somehow know you'll encounter. That's because your future self intercepted something, an event, a consequence, a hit, and redirected its force so that it would brush you instead of break you. The Oracle Flare uses emotion as a language. When the flare reaches you, you're not supposed to explain it. You're supposed to feel the warning without knowing the details. It's a shockwave sent backward, so you'll notice the shift before the moment arrives. And then there are the physical signs. The small, strange disturbances in your surroundings that break the normal flow of your day. An object falls or moves without any visible reason. No breeze, no imbalance, no accident. Something shifts on its own, as if touched by an unseen hand. These disturbances are timelines brushing against each other, rubbing edges like tectonic plates sliding under pressure. When your future self makes a drastic move, changing direction, refusing a path, rejecting a choice, that shift in trajectory sends a tremor back through the timeline. The physical world responds to the pressure, and the result shows up as a quick, subtle disruption around you. You might glance at the object and feel a strange recognition, as if the movement confirms something you didn't consciously know. You might stare at it for a moment, confused, trying to rationalize it, while your instincts whisper that something just collided with your present reality. That whisper is the truth. You're witnessing the timeline adjusting itself, reacting to a decision you have not yet made. Then comes the moment that truly jolts you, the déjà vu that arrives tonight with a strength that almost stops your breath. Not the normal kind of déjà vu, the fleeting sensation that you've lived the moment before. This one feels deeper, heavier, as if someone rehearsed it with you ahead of time. You feel aligned with your own memory and yet slightly out of sync, like you're replaying a scene your future self already sent you as a message. This déjà vu is the echo of a warning your future self tried to deliver earlier, long before you stepped into the moment where the message was meant to land. That déjà vu is not about familiarity, it's about recognition. A silent alert that says, you've seen this because you needed to be ready. Your mind receives the message as a loop, a brief repetition of a moment that technically hasn't happened yet, but was forwarded to you through the flare. What you feel during that déjà vu, whether it's tension, caution, curiosity, or awareness, is the emotional imprint your future self tagged to that moment. You are not imagining anything. You are remembering something from ahead of you. Sometimes the oracle flare speaks through language instead of sensation. You hear a phrase that feels loaded, even if the person saying it has no idea why their words hit you so strangely. It may be something simple, a sentence, a name, a statement, that lands with the weight of a prophecy. You don't know why the words feel important, only that they strike something inside you like a tuning fork. That heaviness, that vibration, is the signal. You will speak that phrase years from now in a moment that matters. You will repeat it under pressure, or in clarity, or in crisis, or in revelation. At a point where that exact sentence shifts the course of something significant. When you hear it in the present, it arrives as foreshadowing. The words echo across timelines, ringing forward and backward at the same time. That's why they feel charged, why they carry more weight than the person speaking them understands. You are hearing your own future voice. You are hearing the future version of yourself break through the divide for a split second. This is also why your intuition begins to argue with your logic. Not gently, not with hesitation, but with a force that feels like a tug from inside your ribs. You sense something strongly, yet your logical mind tries to cancel it out, pushing for a more normal explanation. But the problem is, your instincts already know what's coming. Your intuition has already received information from the future version of you. Logic only works with what it can see. Intuition works with what it remembers from ahead of time. So when your intuition rises up, when it contradicts what seems logical or reasonable, it's because the flare has activated. You might feel uneasy about something that looks harmless. You might feel drawn towards something that seems irrelevant. You might sense danger where your mind sees none, or opportunity where your mind doubts it. That inner conflict is the tension between the you who lives now and the you who lives later. Two timelines tugging in opposite directions, one based on what has been, the other based on what will be. Your instincts sharpen because the signal becomes stronger. You sense the invisible pressure closing in. You feel pulled toward choices that don't make sense yet. You pick up emotional echoes from events that haven't arrived. Your senses shift because your future self is shouting across the divide, trying to reach you before the moment locks into place. There is no imagination here, no coincidence, only the flare, only the warning, only the version of you who already lived the impact, pushing the message back through the layers of time before the next wave hits. 7. The veiled throne, the system quietly built around your life. The veiled throne has always been closer than you realized, an invisible architecture shaping the people who move through your life, the timing of their entrances, the weight of their words, the consequences of their choices. You are never moving through a random world. You are moving through a design, a structure, a system that formed itself around you long before you were old enough to understand what it meant to be chosen. And within this structure, 7 people, scattered across your timeline, woven into your story in subtle, almost forgettable ways, have been aligned around you without ever knowing they were part of a larger pattern. These 7 hold roles that activate at different points in your life. 1 guards your emotional strength. Another protects your direction. Another challenges your pride. Another forces your courage. Another reflects your potential. Another stabilizes your path. And 1, the final one, mirrors your destiny so closely that their presence feels strangely familiar, even if you don't fully understand why. None of them consciously know the roles they hold. They don't wake up thinking, I am part of the design. But each carries a quiet influence that touches your life at key moments, just enough to guide you, test you, or redirect you without revealing the system that placed them there. They show up at the exact moment you're about to fall or to rise. They say the sentence that shifts your thoughts. They leave and return with unnatural timing. They feel significant in ways you can't explain, and sometimes insignificant until much later when you realize the thread they held. Their presence is not random. Their impact is not accidental. They are part of the throne's architecture, the living pillars that watch your development from the edges of your perception. This is why certain setbacks you thought were bad luck carried a strange, almost deliberate heaviness. You felt targeted by misfortune, as if life chose the worst possible moment to break something important. But those moments were not the universe punishing you. They were pressure tests sent by the system observing you. The throne needed to know how you withstand strain, how you respond to loss, how you rebuild after collapse. Not because they doubted you, but because they needed to measure the stability of what you are becoming. Every setback was monitored quietly, not the situation itself, but your reaction. When something fell apart, and you had to choose between surrendering or standing back up, your response sent a signal through the architecture. The system recorded the way your spirit shifted. The throne watched whether you hardened or softened, whether you broke or adapted, whether you blamed yourself or understood the deeper pattern. What you thought was bad luck was actually a calibration, pressure applied to reveal your strength, not to erase it. You weren't being attacked, you were being measured. And the times you felt alone, the heavy nights where silence pressed against your chest, where you wondered why help never came, where it felt like even the people who cared for you disappeared at the exact moment you needed them. Those moments were not abandonment. They were engineered isolation. The system around you removed interference so no external energy could distort your growth. Loneliness was not punishment, it was shielding. The throne steps in when too many voices crowd your path, when too much influence threatens the clarity of your becoming. They silence the environment around you, not through cruelty, but through protection. They pull people back so you can hear your own instincts. They block unworthy energies from interrupting your development. They create space for your strength to grow without being shaped by outside hands. You thought you were being forgotten. In truth, you were being guarded. While you moved through your year, believing you were choosing which relationships to keep and which to let go, the veiled throne was rearranging them quietly, nudging some closer, pushing others away, replacing certain connections with new ones that aligned more tightly with your path. People you drifted from weren't exits, they were strategic withdrawals. People who entered unexpectedly weren't coincidences, they were reinforcements. People who grew distant were reassigned roles elsewhere. The shifting dynamics you struggled to make sense of were actually part of a larger repositioning. You likely wondered why certain friendships cracked open without warning, why certain family members felt quieter, why old conversations ended abruptly, or why new connections felt strangely significant despite barely knowing each other. These were not emotional accidents. They were moves on a board only the throne could see. They were placing your allies where they needed to be, preparing the people who must stand near you for the moments ahead, and removing the ones who would have disrupted the alignment. But the most telling sign of the throne's reach is the moment someone accidentally calls you by a strange title or name, something you were never known by, something that has no reason to slip from their mouth. It could be a nickname that doesn't fit your personality, a word that carries authority, a name with an energy you've never heard directed at you, or a title that seems too powerful, too heavy, too ancient to belong in your everyday conversations. They speak it and immediately look confused, embarrassed, or startled, as if the word bypassed their conscious mind and came from somewhere deeper. That slip is not random. It is the architecture showing through the person, a moment where the system leaks into the physical world. Their conscious mind may not know who you are becoming, but the energy moving through them does. The slip reveals that somewhere inside them, beneath memory, beneath awareness, beneath language, they hold a quiet knowledge of your role. The throne imprinted it into them long before either of you met, and sometimes, when the energy around you intensifies, that imprint rises to the surface for a split second. They speak the title because on some level, they recognize you. They don't know why. They don't know how. But they know something about you does not belong to the ordinary world. You feel the weight of the moment instantly, not because the word is familiar, but because the vibration behind it feels like it was meant for you. You might feel a shiver, or a sudden pause in your thoughts, or a moment of stillness, as if the air around you tightened. That is the throne, revealing the faintest corner of the design, just enough for you to sense the truth without exposing the full structure. They slipped because the system guiding your path knows exactly who you are, and sometimes the people standing near you speak from that knowing, even when their conscious mind does not understand the source. The veiled throne has been building around your life silently, shaping your connections, testing your strength, isolating your growth, and aligning your allies, not to crown you early, but to prepare the world for the moment you step into the role it has been guarding all along. 8. The miracle convergence, the 7 shifts, triggering on December 12th. When the portal reaches its peak, the air around you changes, not metaphorically, Literally, the atmosphere tightens, the energy thickens, and the invisible machinery that has been building pressure all year finally releases its stored force in your direction. The miracle convergence doesn't drift in slowly. It strikes, sudden and undeniable, pulling events toward you as if your life has become the center of a gravitational field no one else can see. And the first sign is immediate. A message, an offer, or a confession arrives without warning. Something that feels strangely out of place in time, as if it should have come days ago or months from now, but instead pushes through tonight. It might be a text, a voice, a face, or a sudden opportunity that appears with almost unnatural timing. You notice the oddness instantly. It feels accelerated, like someone pressed fast forward on destiny itself. This moment isn't random. It's been held back, suspended, waiting for the portal's opening. And when it hits you, the sense of finally settles in your chest like a shockwave. It arrives because the portal pushed it forward, because something in the structure of time recognized that you are now aligned enough to receive what was meant for you. Then something even stranger happens. A chapter you thought was permanently closed suddenly opens up again. A door you locked, a dream you buried, a path you abandoned. You may have accepted its ending long ago, assumed it was gone, assumed it was over. But the convergence bends the rules. What was sealed begins to crack open, revealing movement where there was once stillness. It might be a gesture, a chance, an unfinished truth rising to the surface. Not because you chased it, but because unfinished pieces cannot stay buried when the portal activates. The energy doesn't resurrect the past. It realigns what was never truly dead. You sense possibility returning in a way that feels impossible, yet unmistakably real. Then comes the shift that cuts the deepest. A betrayal flips in your favor so sharply it feels engineered. Someone's hidden intention, someone's lie, someone's attempt to quiet your rise. Whatever it was, the force behind the convergence takes it and turns it. The very thing meant to block you becomes the reason you advance. The betrayal reverses, not through apology or reconciliation, but through the architecture of timing. Suddenly, you find yourself gaining because they underestimated you. Suddenly, you're standing where they tried to keep you from standing. Suddenly, their actions create an opening that wouldn't have existed without the wound they delivered. It feels cosmic. It feels precise. It feels like the universe itself reached into the moment and rotated it until it pointed back toward your growth. And then a win appears, one you never pursued. Not something you fought for, not something you begged for, not something you exhausted yourself trying to earn. It arrives as if carried by invisible hands, moving toward you with intention. A victory that seems to know where you are. A result that feels like it has been traveling across events, decisions, and unseen realms until it finally reached you. When it lands, you may feel disbelief or a brief moment of vertigo because it contradicts everything you were taught about effort and reward. This win is not payment, it is placement. It chooses you. But the most subtle and perhaps the most powerful element of the convergence is the presence of a hidden supporter. Someone you don't see clearly, someone whose name you may not know, someone who moves quietly on your behalf. They speak a sentence in the right room. They shift a decision in the right direction. They recommend you where you aren't present. They amplify your momentum without ever announcing themselves. Their movements shape the next 3 months of your path, smoothing obstacles you didn't even know were forming, removing threats before you encounter them, gently positioning you where you need to be. This supporter does not reveal themselves because the convergence works best when invisibility protects intention. You may feel a strange sense that someone is helping you from the shadows, that events are bending toward you more easily, that something behind the scenes is clearing the way for you. You aren't imagining it. You are feeling the quiet fingerprints of someone who recognizes your significance, someone who aligns with your rise, even if you never hear their voice. Their influence is subtle but undeniable, woven into the timing and opportunities that appear with perfect precision. The miracle convergence does not unfold politely. It rearranges, it redirects, it accelerates. It pulls every loose thread of your story into motion, weaving them into something that was always meant to touch you, but only when you became ready to hold it. And as it does, your life shifts in a way that feels too synchronized to ignore, too perfectly timed to dismiss, and too deeply aligned to call coincidence. These events carry the weight of destiny. They move with the certainty of something written and waited for. The convergence begins the moment the portal opens, and the moment it reaches you, nothing around you behaves the same. Chosen one, whether you feel it fully or only in fragments, you are standing in the center of a transformation meant for you and you alone. You are not a random soul placed on a random timeline. You were built for this moment, shaped for this threshold, prepared long before you had the language to understand why your life felt different. And now, as the energy settles around you, as the shifts align, as the path clears, your identity stands undeniable. You are the chosen one. If this message moves something in you, if you felt the pull, the truth, the resonance, then honor this moment. Like this video, subscribe, and comment, "I am chosen," to seal your place in this awakening. This is your time. This is your rise. And nothing can turn it away from you now.